This is a program on American military records for family history. I'm Don Wilson. American history from its earliest colonial days contains a continuous series of conflicts in which our ancestors were involved. American troops have always been an important part of our nation's development. Identifying your military ancestors and the parts they played in American history is a significant aspect of the story you tell about them. If you are looking for your ancestors' military service records, here are details you should know to get started: their name, their date of birth, their place of residence, and other identifying information. The birth date is important in order to judge in which war or period they might have served. There are three parts to this presentation. First, an introduction to some important resources. Second, some tips on getting started with your ancestors' military service. And third, a quick guide to finding useful military records for each period of American history. To begin, we'll show you an overview of important online sources for your research, including Ancestry, Family Search, Fold 3, and Heritage Quest. We'll also introduce the National Archives and our state and local archives, the brick-and-mortar repositories of our military history. The codes in brackets will also appear later in the presentation. Ancestry.com is a paid subscription service. Many libraries subscribe to Ancestry Library Edition, which allows users to search it inside their local library. During the COVID pandemic, Ancestry is allowing library patrons to access the Library Edition from home from the library's website using your library card. From Ancestry's main screen, you can click on Search Military to limit your search to military records. This screen allows you to search all of Ancestry's military records at once. Sometimes it is less confusing if you limit the search to a particular kind of record. See the Narrow by Category box. Family Search is the website of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. For over 100 years, they have been collecting genealogical records from the United States and many other countries. Their site is free, but they require you to register. Some of the documents can only be seen at a Family Search Center or an affiliate library. RELIC is an affiliate library of Family Search. One of the useful sections of the Family Search site is their Research Wiki tab. See the box on this screen. On the Research Wiki page, you can search for any genealogy-related topic. For example, United States military records. There you will find useful guides to military records and what kinds of information you will find there. It will also give you details of U.S. military history and how to find particular types of records. There are a wide variety of military records available, most of which we will not touch on in this introduction. If you become deeply interested in this topic, you can spend time studying all the special records out there, most of which are not yet online. Fold3.com is a subscription service that specializes in military records of the United States and several other English-speaking nations. Much of its content is from records at the National Archives. The site is now owned by Ancestry, so some of its content is also available on Ancestry's military records search. RELIC has a one-user subscription, which means our patrons can use it at RELIC one at a time. You can limit your search by name, place, war, or type of record. Heritage Quest Online can be accessed through our library's digital library page using your Prince William library card. Heritage Quest contains a subset of genealogical databases from Ancestry.com, including the U.S. Census and city directories. For military research, it contains pension and bounty land warrant applications for Revolutionary War soldiers. It also contains 28,000 searchable history books that may contain military facts about your ancestors. The National Archives preserves documents of our nation's history in Washington, D.C., and at various archive locations around the country. Some of those records are available through their website, but many more are currently available only through the National Archives contract with Fold 3 on its website. Most records from the War of 1812 to the present are not yet available online. This website tells you how to obtain copies of the records you need. Those records began with the Revolutionary War. Earlier military records will be found in state archives and the archives of other nations. Each of the American states and territories has a library or archive responsible for preserving the documents of its history. Here is the Library of Virginia in Richmond, which contains documents related to military events going back to Virginia's founding in 1607. The Library of Virginia's page of research guides and indexes describes its collection of military service records, most of which are not available elsewhere. These are state, not national records, so they will not be at the National Archives. Most of these records have not yet been put online. The research guides describe many records that can only be seen by direct contact with the library's staff. There are thousands of local archives around the country. Any of these local institutions may have collections of documents, maps, audiovisual materials, or databases related to people who lived in their area. They may contain important sources for your ancestors' story. Part 2. Begin by checking guides and indexes that will narrow your search. These may save you time by leading you to the records you need. The U.S. Census is completely indexed and often provides clues to military service. The 1840 census has a column identifying Revolutionary War pensioners. Later census records include occupations of all adults, including those currently in military service. The 1890 special census of Union veterans lists their place of residence, their military unit, and any disability they received in the war. The 1910 census identifies service in both armies and navies. Military bases are listed separately from the regular schedules on the 1920 census. The 1930 census identifies all veterans. These census records are all indexed. Major genealogy websites include assorted military indexes, which are a good place to start looking for your ancestors' service. Each site is different in coverage. Family Search includes digital images of many state and local records. State and local archives may have some materials online, but are apt to have much more in manuscript form. Nagel's Guide to U.S. Military Records, along with the Family Search Wiki, are good places to familiarize yourself with the kinds of records to expect. Findagrave.com and billiongraves.com are free websites created by volunteers. These sites are fully indexed. They include notes or markers indicating military service. Although these databases are very large and growing, they do not have every known burial. Federal Veterans Grave Sites data is now online. Cemetery records at the state and local level may include information about your ancestors' burial place. Next, we will look at records of individual wars, arranged chronologically. For the earliest period, we will look at the colonial wars and the American Revolution. Every colonial settlement expected its able-bodied men to drill regularly as part of the local militia. Each colony kept track of its men between 16 and 60 years of age, called tithables, and called them up to fight when the need arose. The colony's leaders appointed officers for local companies and regiments. Local courts might provide financial aid for needy families of absent or deceased soldiers. Many of these sources have been published, though not necessarily online. Many Revolutionary War records are now online. Men who served in state-level units and in the Continental Line have been mostly accounted for by documents at the National Archives that have been posted at Fold 3. Pension records are also posted at Ancestry, Family Search, and Heritage Quest. What we are lacking are comprehensive lists of militia units which are mostly reported at the state and local level. If the county or local records are destroyed, there may be no complete record of men serving in those militias. Pension records contain important clues to the service of men who lived long enough to draw them. The records of Americans who remained loyal to the British cause can be found among Canadian and British sources online. Next, we will touch on each of the major conflicts of the 19th century. Registers of regular enlistments, 1798 to 1914, include name, organization, physical description, age, where born, details of enlistment, and remarks itemizing what happened to him during his service. Those registers are now posted on several websites. Not as much information is available online about military service in the War of 1812 as in the Revolutionary War. We have the records of regular enlistments, previous slide. Militia units were mostly registered at the state level. Some of that information has been put online. Fold 3 seems to have recently finished posting pension files of this war. Some basic records of the Mexican-American War are online, but they are mostly indexes. To see full pension records, you must contact the National Archives. The Civil War has had more written about it than any other American conflict. Nationally, there is much interest in the people and records related to this period in history. Although Civil War pension files at the National Archives have mostly not been digitized, there are other records that may be of interest. In 1863, the federal government registered able-bodied men for the draft in each congressional district. Information includes residence, name, age, color, occupation, marital status, former military service, if any, and remarks. I have not seen similar registers for the Confederacy. Ancestry has posted a large number of documents related to service in the Civil War. The National Park Service has posted a list of all known soldiers and sailors of the war with their military units, but no personal facts. The American Civil War Research Database adds enlistment, discharge, and other facts that can help identify the person you want, and links them to every action that their regiment was involved in. The roster of Confederate soldiers is a handy first step, but it only identifies the unit each man is in. Pension files for Union troops are located at the National Archives. Several online sites have indexes to those files. A few of the files have been digitized so far. Those for U.S. colored troops and for widows' pensions for certain states can be found on Fold 3. Confederate pensions were issued by the former Confederate states to veterans who resided in their state. Some of those pensions are posted online by the state. Civil War veteran groups have played a prominent role in American society since the end of the war. They have been succeeded by sons and daughters organizations that preserve the memory of their ancestors. National lists of Union and Confederate burials can supplement the major burial websites shown earlier in the program. Not a lot has been published separately on Spanish-American War military records. Most of what exists in book form has been issued by state governments to honor the troops who served from their state. Regular Army registers and regular pension files include most of the soldiers who participated in this war. Now we will cover the wars since 1900. The bad news for anyone searching for an Army or Air Force personnel record between 1912 and the early 1960s is that most of them were destroyed by a devastating fire in 1973. Although the National Personnel Record Center is attempting to restore files using alternate sources, it has been slow going. If you have personnel records for a 20th century relative, they would welcome your sharing copies of those documents. Fortunately, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard files are believed to be intact. With the loss of so many important records, what can you use to document your ancestors' activities during World War I? Draft registration cards completed during 1917 and 1918 identify every man under 45 years of age, giving birth date, residence, occupation, nearest relative, and physical description. Each state registered its residents who served in the military during the war, giving details of enlistment and service. Some of those records are now online. Officers' careers are in the Army registers, published periodically since 1798. During the Second World War, every man born between 1882 and about 1925 was registered for the draft. Those cards preserve important information such as birth date and birthplace, place of residence, occupation and employer, friend or next of kin, signature, and physical description. Army enlistment records are found in a special database prepared by the National Archives. It includes name, marital status, birth year, place of birth and residence, education, occupation, date of enlistment, service number, height, and weight. If a troop was lost during a recent conflict, basic details of their life and service can be found for 81,000 persons in the POW-MIA database. Searching for recent military personnel involves similar methods. Find out if the National Personnel Records Center has a file on your person. Search any and all recent databases from the resources we have discussed. Take advantage of newspaper databases such as newspapers.com, Genealogy Bank, Newspaper Archive, and Chronicling America to learn about your ancestors' military presence. If you know the identity of their military unit, see what histories have been written about it. All of these sources will help complete your relative story. Let RELIC staff and specialists at each archive help you with your search. Best of luck.